Okay, we are live now. Welcome everyone to our Democratic Caucus. It is Tuesday, February 21st. We have I have just a few announcements today, and then we've got a number of bills to report out today. But quickly on the announcements first. Floor this week is, as I told you last week, will be 10, 3, 3, and 9:30. But this is our last week of 10, 3, 3, and 9:30. Next week, we're going to be moving, and make sure you think about this as a bigger thing, 10, 1, 1, and 9:30 next week. So we will start floor earlier next week, so be prepared for that. There are public hearings going on in the budget, two of them, one today at 3 p.m. and it is in room 11, I believe. And then next Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. That's on the 28th, next Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. So remember those. They will be live streamed as well. And just very quickly, one last announcement. House Rules is going to be meeting. We're trying to meet this week at some point. We have not scheduled anything yet because we haven't found a date where everybody could do it, but we're going to try for later this week. So if anybody has anything they're interested in on House Rules, come let us know later this week. Okay, that was it on my announcements. So I'm going to go ahead and call up Representative Chase, who's going to report on our first bill, which is H76 out of Commerce.
Hi. So I'm going to be reporting on H76, and it's an act related to captive insurance. It's riveting. Captive insurance, for those of you who don't know, Vermont has about $32 million into the general fund from captive insurance industry. It's been going on in Vermont for about 41 years. Vermont, what a captive is, in a nutshell, is an entity that is going to insure a captive audience. So everything with the captive is encapsulated, and our laws in Vermont are very strong. We aren't the cheapest place to come and start a captive organization, but what makes us so attractive for the last 41 years is we have a strong regulatory system. And we also have what is perceived as a stable government. Those items make our risk to a captive less to do business in Vermont. We're the #1 domicile for captives in all the United States and #2 in the world. So it's a little hidden treasure. And this bill, I can tell you, look, I have pages and pages and pages, so I can get into the nitty gritty with you guys later or explain more about what captives are. But I would like to just say that we have 1,290 in Vermont. So it's quite an interesting part of our economic development. What the bill has 6 sections. 5 of those sections are administrative, so changing a word, updating something, changing dates, having more clarification on terms. Section 2 is the most important section, and the Department of Financial Regulation, who administers the program and regulates the program, is asking for an increase in funding of 2% of what the captives bring in. So they want more of the share. They are growing. They have 30 employees. And it's costing them more to run the program. But in the last 10 years, we're up $8 million. So I think it's a really good use. What they've been doing is borrowing from other department or other sections of the department, and they feel it's time to really have their budget all together. So we're very supportive of it, and our committee voted 11-0-0. And right now it's in Ways and Means, and I believe they're taking testimony today on it, and it should be on the floor, and I'll be reporting hopefully Thursday. Any questions? That's in a nutshell. I'd love to talk to you more about it, but I was told to make it short so no one would fall asleep.
Was it quite what I said? But... All right. Thank you, Representative Chase. And as she said, if anybody has anything they want to know about captive insurance, please go look up Representative Chase or any other member of the Commerce Committee. Okay, so next up, I'm going to have Representative McCarthy and Representative Nugent, right, up for a bill dealing with OPR.
So while our bill reporter, Representative Nugent, comes and joins me here and lets you know all about our committee's OPR bill. I've just been working with Nigel and the clerk to understand exactly how, so this was delayed an extra day beyond what I thought it was going to be, just with committee bills and the backlog of stuff in drafting ops. So this will be up for second reading on Friday, actually. So it'll be introduced tomorrow, just so we're no air traffic controls. Representative Nugent, come and tell us about the OPR bill.
Hello, everyone. I think this is another very exciting bill. It's a semi-annual housekeeping bill for the Office of Professional Regulation, which oversees a lot of professions in Vermont, including cosmetologists, osteopathic physicians, and a number of other ones. And the main highlights of the bill is that it simplifies the application process between misconduct denials, people applying for licenses, and qualification denials, so that is streamlined and easier for folks to manage. It also allows remote learning, or otherwise known as synchronous virtual courses, to qualify as continuing education requirements. It makes updates to continuing education requirements for physicians, specifically removing a duplicative requirement for osteopathic physicians. And it expands the scope of practice for public health hygienists, following required rulemaking, to allow them to carry out potential teeth-saving procedure in places like nursing homes and schools. And this is a very exciting part of it. This procedure is called SMART, otherwise known as Silver Modified Atraumatic Restorative Technique, which it is kind of cool because it will increase access to teeth-saving procedure for folks that might not have access to dental care otherwise. In addition, it also allows pharmacists to prescribe subcutaneous under the skin hormonal contraception, otherwise known as the depot shot. It allows pharmacists and pharmacy technicians to continue administering COVID vaccines and tests for patients age 18 and older, even after the emergency authorization ends in May. And it eases over-the-counter hearing aid dispensers by exempting them from requirements of other audiologists, which is a change that's already been made at the federal level. And finally, it corrects a statutory reference related to notaries.
Are there any questions? Does anyone have any questions? There is one question.
Hi there, Dane Whitman, representative from Bennington. I had a question about the SMART, the silver oral health treatment. Could you go again into the list of who is now able to provide that procedure?
Public health hygienists.
Okay, great. And then is there anything else as far as like the dental hygienist scope of practice that's being covered in this bill? as opposed to like a dentist versus a dental hygienist?
No.
Okay, thank you. I'll follow up later.
Other questions? Seeing none. If you do have questions, if questions come up, please see Representative Nugent or any other member of the GovOps committee. And you heard it will be on second reading on Friday. So, okay. Thank you to the both of them. We're going to move to judiciary now. But I'm not sure which one you want to go first. Doesn't really matter. They have two bills. We'll do H 148, raising the age to marry, and that'll be Representative Chapin.
Good morning, everyone. Representative Ella Chapin reporting for judiciary about H 148, which has not been passed out of committee yet, but we anticipate taking a vote later this week and it potentially being on the floor next week. The purpose of this bill is to end childhood marriage. That specifically means 16 and 17-year-olds who right now can get married with the written permission of one parent. The child's input is not required. There are about 289 children who were married in Vermont between 2000 and 2021. 80% of them are girls, and it's frequently what happens is certainly not all cases, but many cases are girls who are getting pregnant and are being encouraged or required to get married. So that's a very frequent use of child marriage here and elsewhere. It is really an international push to end childhood marriage and get rid of the loopholes. There's a lot of data that shows the very deeply negative impacts on girls and other children who get married at 16 or 17. The UN human rights, it's considered a human rights violation by the UN and many other international bodies, and many countries, including the US, are working towards that end. Child marriage is often and easily forced. Rates of child abuse and sexual violence are all, very high related to girls and other children who are considering or getting married at that age. One of the other considerations that you should just know is that 16 and 17-year-olds don't have other legal authorities to sign any other kinds of contracts in Vermont. They can't get a lawyer. If they leave home to try and run away because they don't want to get married, they're considered runaways under state law, and domestic violence shelters are not allowed to house or support them, and designated shelters for youth are not confidential, and children can only have a short stay before they return to their parents. So there's a lot of reasons that 16 and 17-year-olds shouldn't be allowed to sign one kind of contract if they're also not allowed to have all of these other access to legal support. So I'll stop there and take any other quick questions, or happy to answer questions other times.
Any other questions? Any questions at all? We do have one. Just have to get the mic.
Representative Chestnut Tangerman, Middletown Springs. This question is prompted by a letter that I saw next to the printer in the 30s, which was about military personnel marrying girls. And I'm wondering how this law affects interstate federal employees, people who move in and out. If someone is married in another state, is it recognized? Would it be recognized as legally binding in Vermont?
Great question. We had some dialogue about that. Martin, do you know the answer to that question?
So we would have to respect, Martin Malone, Judiciary Committee. So we would have to respect another state's contract or order or marriage, essentially. It's part of full faith and credit clause is what we heard. So we wouldn't be able to nullify a marriage that happened in another state if people move into Vermont.
And just on the military piece, which you mentioned, but isn't exclusive to out-of-state marriages, it's our understanding that there's really no concern about, from the National Guard's perspective anyway, about the impact of this change on folks in military service.
I just wanted to thank you for your work on this bill. I worked at our parent-child center with young parents for a few years and worked with a number of women who were exiting child marriages, and it was terrible. So thank you for doing something about it.
Thanks.
If there are no other questions, you know who to go to. Not only Representative Chapin, but anyone on judiciary. And so we're going to do one more judiciary bill. It is H53, and Representative Dolan is speaking to this one. And it is, while she's walking up here, driver license suspension.
Hey, good morning, everyone. So what I'm going to do is actually share the first two paragraphs I have of my bill report. So this is going to be familiar language. You'll hear it again. So H53 aligns driver license suspensions to driving behavior. That's the key takeaway. Under current law, if someone fails to timely pay a fine for a moving violation, such as a speeding ticket, their driver's license is automatically suspended. H53 would end this practice. It would eliminate driver license suspensions because of failure to pay a fine for a moving violation. Suspensions would only occur based on unsafe driving behavior. This change maintains suspensions for public safety reasons while avoiding debt-related restrictions on driving privileges, which often create a long cycle of poverty and punishment. In such situations, folks are faced with an impossible choice to stop driving and lose everything, or keep driving and risk more fines, fees, and criminal charges. So how prevalent is this? In 2022, there were 12,770 driver license suspensions imposed in Vermont, with 43%, or 5,507 of those, being imposed due to the non-payment of a fee or fine associated with a traffic violation. The remaining 57% were imposed due to unsafe driving practices, such as accumulating too many points, criminal and civil DUI convictions, or underage substance violations. H53 eliminates the first category of suspensions in this data set, the 43% of suspensions due to non-payment. However, it is important to note that fines and fees will remain imposed and collected. We are not getting rid of that piece of it, including they'll be collected through the tax offset process. But a person would not have their license suspended for solely failing to pay. So H53 passed out of House Judiciary last week with a vote of 10-1-0 and is now headed to Ways and Means. And depending on when they take that up, we'll see it on the floor soon. And you'll be hearing this again. Questions?
That was incredibly scintillating. So again, see Representative Dolan and another member of Judiciary if you do think of questions after you've reviewed the bill. Okay, so the last one we have is H66, which is the Family Medical Leave Insurance Program. And we've got Representative Stevens and Representative Chestnut Tangerman to speak to that.
Thank you. Morning, Tom Stevens from Waterbury, Chair of General and Housing. And just to let you know, we passed our version of H66 out last Thursday on a 9-3 vote, party line vote. And I just wanted to give a broad overview, and I'll let Robin give a few more details and we'll both answer questions together. But when we first heard this bill, there were 4 distinct sections, and it's kind of 3 now. And the most important thing, I'll cut to the chase, paid family leave, where we passed out 100% wage replacement of the average weekly wage up to the average weekly wage, which is about $1,100. And right now, the cost for that would be about 0.5% on the income tax, which roughly comes out to 5 cents for every $10 of your income. But the real difference in this bill about what we in existing law is it changes over time to the Paid Family Medical Leave Act, which is our state version of FMLA, which is the Federal Medical Leave Act. Right now, employees, companies that have 10 employees can offer unpaid leave for parental leave up to 12 weeks, and 15 and above can offer medical leave for 12 weeks, unpaid leave. And what this bill is going to do by 2026 is make leave, paid and unpaid, available to all employees in the state of Vermont without any restrictions on how many employees work for any particular company. And I think this is important for us to understand the difference it's going to make for our businesses across the state. It's a big change for people. In the unpaid leave law, we also incorporated safe leave for people who are experiencing domestic violence or intimate partner violence. And what that will end up doing at the very beginning, if this bill passes in July 1, 2023, it will allow individuals who are experiencing domestic violence to have up to 12 extra weeks that they'll qualify for the 12 weeks of unpaid leave in the same 10 and 15 or at 10 at companies of 10 or above. But they will also have up to extra 12 weeks to deal with issues related to their situation added in. And that would happen in July of 2023. And then in 2026, it would be every employee in the state of Vermont would be eligible for that safe leave portion of unpaid leave. The other sections, the other pieces, just to know from my perspective, is to explain the process a little bit. We voted it out. It is now owned by the Ways and Means Committee. And what that will mean is that they will address not just the financial sections of the bill about how much it costs and for how long, but they will be able to change the policy where they see fit based on the financial pieces of that. And then it will go to appropriations, because there is an appropriation to start up of $20 million. We are working with the treasurer. This bill has us working with the treasurer's office to form a new division rather than working with an existing division. So there's startup costs related to that. Be about 2 years to set up the program, to set up the software and hardware. And then there'd be 15 months where we'd continue to set up the program, but we would start collecting the premiums from people's paychecks, so that when we open the doors to this program in October 26 as planned, that there would be sufficient funds for us to run this program and keep it solvent. I'll let Representative Chestnut Tangerman get into some of the details now. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative Stevens. And there are a lot of details. And I think Representative Long, you said we have the next 90 minutes for Q&A. Yeah. My favorite kind. So the broad strokes are what Representative Stevens said. I think the key elements here are immediately expanding the protections to include safe leave. That would happen right away. And then making this available to all Vermont employees. The stumbling block for programs like this is usually either people are priced out of participating or the benefits are too low to make it worthwhile. It's the underinsured problem. And having this program represent 100% wage replacement ends that problem. You know, you would be making what you made before under this program. It does stand up a new division. It creates the Division of Family and Medical Leave within the Office of the Treasurer. The Treasurer would appoint a director who would, over the next 2 years, would do rulemaking to establish the details of how this is operated. And then, as Representative Stevens said, people would start paying into the program July 1 of 2025, and benefits would start being paid out October 1 of 2026, an 15-month period in there to build up the reserves. One of the key elements is that it is available to self-employed people. It's optional for self-employed people. It is mandatory for employees. And the definition, as Representative Stevens alluded to, the definition of employer changes from 10 employees or 15 employees to yourself plus one. Anybody you employ is an employee and is covered. So it's everybody in. The rate, as he said, is about, it is calculated at 0.5% of payroll. And to put some numbers on that, there is a very high number of if you earn $60,000 a year, the contribution is $300,000, sorry, $300. Not medical, right. $300. And that is split 50-50 between employer and employee making payments. The employer has the option of picking up more of that and providing full payment of this benefit as an unemployment benefit if they want to. But so even for $60,000, a $300 premium is very, very affordable. And for somebody earning $30,000, which is, you know, difficult to live on, it's $150. Your share of that is $75. Again, affordable even for a low income wage earner. And then you have full wage replacement if you are in a situation where you need to take advantage of this bill. I think that's what I have to say at this point. And any questions?
So it just helps if everybody introduces themselves when they grab the microphone.
Representative Michelle Boslin from Wyndham 3 District. So I believe that when I've heard family leave talked about, that largely is related to having a child or adopting a child. So my question is, does that also apply the medical overlay? So let's say my husband has cancer and I need to take him in for chemo treatments. Can you take medical leave because of a health issue with your immediate family member?
Short answer, yes. It's to care for your own or a family member's serious illness or injury. Also covers pregnancy, birth, bonding time. We also included miscarriage and we have expanded the definition of family. And I think this is a critical piece as well. Not all of us have birth families that we are either close to or responsible to. So this includes family of choice. If there isn't necessarily a biological or legal connection, you can still designate a family member.
So how is that determined? You need to get a doctor's note or like something like that?
Yeah, those are the details and the nuance that we're not going into today.
Okay,
we'd be
but it's
happy
in the
to
bill.
share. It
Okay.
is in the bill. It's especially for the non-blood related family, it's a totality of one's relationship. It's not just, it's my next door neighbor and I take care of their cat. It would be a lot deeper than that in order to qualify for that particular portion. But I think, again, we expand, another important piece of the bill is that we do expand the definition of family to include, again, we can provide you with the text, or you can look it up from what passed the committee, but it's pretty it's expansive over what exists today. And it's certainly expansive over what we've used in the past. And we've been doing this in the drafts that have failed or not, or been vetoed for the last several years. And I think we've just added on just a few more pieces that we were comfortable with an explanation of. You know, there were pieces that we took some time with in order to understand what family meant under this definition, so that it wasn't just I take care of their cat, therefore I should be able to take them to their, to get paid time off. But again, it's also, just remember, this is for serious illnesses of your family members, of yourself, or birth or parental bonds. So it's really not paid sick days. Those things exist, whether it's combined time off or we mandated 5 sick days for people. So, but that's just the long answer to your question of yes.
Great. It sounds good. Thank you.
Hi, Representative O'Brien, Windsor Orange 1. Just an informational question. So many Vermonters have part-time jobs that sort of make up a whole job. So how would that work if, say, I was a self-employed logger and I ran the dump, in Tunbridge on Saturdays and also was a substitute teacher, say?
So the qualifying definition is that you have earned income in 2 out of the last 4 quarters. So that covers part-time jobs, multiple employers, a range of different situations. It is your contribution and your benefits are pegged to what you earned, but it does allow for those situations of part-time jobs or changing jobs.
And that should just point out that to make 2 out of the previous 4 quarters, if you just move to Vermont, you still have a 6-month waiting period in order to get into those 2 quarters. But if you're working at a job and you shift jobs, then you should automatically qualify because the insurance is yours, not your employer's. Does that make sense? Okay. And just a clarification, I said something that I just want to make sure I clarify. When we give out the rates and what we passed out of committee, it will change, or it may change, whether for political reasons or for financial reasons. It changed in the weeks that we were working on the bill, went from 0.58 to 0.50. Some of that was due to new math and some of that was due to policy change. But until the policy is settled, the numbers won't be the same as what I've quoted you today. Maybe, probably.
One comment about thinking about the definition of family that we were discussing, the expanded definition. We have the benefit of other states' experiences with this. There are 12 other states that have set up programs, and that language about family definition is taken from Colorado's. It's not something we invented, so it does have a track record and a history.
Hi there, Rep. Bus from Woodstock. Can you talk to me about, from the employer's perspective, how an employer is supposed to then find a person to replace that wage earner, and if there are any restrictions or I have employers that are concerned?
Sure, they would replace their employees just the same way they would now, especially if they qualified for unpaid leave. But there are areas where they have freedom. I mean, this is the FMLA and PMFL are job protection acts, right? And this is what not only are we trying to do a replacement of wage, but we're trying to increase the job protection for when you're out on these leaves by changing this. So if they qualify for unpaid leave right now, if they're over 10 employees or 15 employees, then they know what they're doing. There are already pieces in the statute that say, well, you can't take this leave if you know you're going to get laid off, or if you do get laid off while you're taking this leave, you don't have the job protection. So there's elements in here that do protect the employer from people trying to use this as a vacation or extra vacation. This is really, again, the experience we heard from other states is that this is a real benefit that people treasure. There's very little fraud involved with it, very little fraud involved with it at all across the country in the states that have done it. So again, there's the nuances of what are in there for the employers or in the bill, but we did recognize that there could be an expense. Again, if they're not paying for me when I'm out for a serious illness, and they need to pay for someone else, there's a wash in theory. But there is language in there that protects employers from or helps employers understand what their responsibilities are.
Great, thank you.
Brian Minier from South Burlington, wondering about seasonal work. In my case, I'm a 10-month employee because I work for an academic department at UVM. If this were to happen right after I came off the summer, the wage replacement wouldn't look so good. And I wonder how that is for other folks who do seasonal work, whether it's ski resorts or anything else.
So again, it looks back at your top 2 earning quarters out of the previous 4 to determine. Yeah.
Alice Emmons from State Rep Springfield. What about federal employees? Those folks who are working at our post offices or at the VA or at the Green Mountain National Forest, which is federal? How does this play into that?
So all employees, all employers will pay into it, federal, state, and otherwise. If those employers have either a contract, either a bargainable contract, or if they have a program that's already in place, and by the time this opens up, it'll be tested against our program in terms of equivalence. But right now, if they do not offer a paid leave program, then they would be paying into this program, and those employees would be eligible for the program.
Phil Pouch from Heinsberg. Thanks for answering all these questions. It's a big, complicated issue. How does it differ from just sick leave? If I have sick leave for 3 days versus, I'm out for 3 weeks or 4 weeks?
As we said before, this is for major serious illnesses, serious injuries. And those are defined. One of the major things is needing either hospitalization, physician's care, continuing treatment under physician's care. So it's not, I have a cold or I have the flu, and so I'm going to take this leave. It is, I have cancer and I need to take 2 weeks, and then I need chemo every, once a week for 3 months. You can actually take that day, each day that you need chemo under this. It doesn't have to be a 12-week block. It can be broken up, but it would apply to both your initial treatment and recovery time and ongoing treatment under supervision of a medical provider.
And the rulemaking would be looking at exactly like long haul COVID or things like that. How would those decisions be made?
So some of them are laid out, but there's rulemaking to determine the details for sure.
Questions? Not. Thank you both. You know who to go to. See anybody on House General or these two reps. That's it. I don't have any other bills. So have a great week, everyone, and we will see you in the building.